Hello and welcome back to The Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I am pretty good, sir. How are you?
I am alright. I've watched quite a lot of trash. But you know, I did Nosferatu.
Yeah.
It was like fucking film of the year is how I started my year, and it's been downhill ever since.
I mean, typically January is a pretty shit time for movies in general anyway.
That is true. Now, that said, we were just talking about one we did very much enjoy, or I very much enjoyed. So, you know, not all bad. But do you want to kick us off?
Well, should we start with that one then? Let's start with that one.
Okie doke. So, we watched separately, but, you know, Killer's Game. The Killer's Game. Sorry.
Yeah.
The Killer's Game. 2024 action comedy directed by J.J. Perry, starring Dave Bautista, Sofia Botella, thank you. Terry Crews, who I for a while I was like, he's not even in this movie, and then he was. Ben Kingsley, who probably stole the show, to be honest. A solid cast, actually, which was the main reason I watched it.
Yeah,
if I'm honest, I love Dave Bautista.
I've got a lot of time for Dave Bautista because he's
and Sofia Botella, fantastic.
Like, let's just ignore those bloody Rebel Moon.
I don't think that's her fault,
because I don't think. Yeah, there is no. I've got no desire to blame her for those movies. It is not.
Those movies have got some pretty good actors in it.
Yeah,
it's not their fault.
It's certainly not her fault. No, she's and do you know what? I thought their chemistry was really fucking good.
In this,
I don't know why I thought, I can't see them being a couple really, and then they would like chucking each other around. It's like, oh, that works really well actually.
yeah, I actually thought they worked really well together. So effectively, the Killer's Game is a film about Joe Flood, which is a good name for an action star. You need a good, catchy name. Joe Flood works for me. He is a hitman who, you know, in classic action hitman movie fashion, is a hitman, but he only kills bad guys, so it's okay.
He only kills cartel lords and criminals.
Yes. And as part of his job as hitman, he heads to a dance performance in Budapest. And he carries out an assassination. But in the fracas, in the aftermath of the assassination, big commotion, people running away because of gunfire, all scared, and one of the dancers performing at the performance in Budapest, she ends up falling over and she gets like injured by people running over her, and Dave Bautista comes in and picks her up. Joe Flood, he picks her up and he takes her out to safety, and he has a headache. He has a really bad headache and double vision, and he's not quite sure what's going on. She offers to help him, but then of course he disappears. He does a Batman.
I was just going to say he does a Batman.
Yeah, he does a Batman, and
with her phone. He picks up her phone too when she fell.
Yes, he does. So a day later, or whenever he's at home drinking whiskey, he realizes that he has her phone because he picked it up, and so he goes to give it back to her, and you know, the seeds of a romantic relationship begins.
Yeah.
But then he gets the bad news. He goes to the doctor and he is told he has a thing I don't think I'm even going to pronounce. In fact, Dave Bautista's character, Joe Flood, makes fun of the fact that he can't pronounce it in the movie.
CG something or other, isn't it?
CJD, yes. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease? It is a real thing. It's an uncurable disease. It causes motor neural disease, right? Double vision, lack of motor skills, and he's got 3 months to live. So, being a hitman and having lots of money, he hasn't told her he's a hitman, because of course not. Yeah. He decides that he wants to leave the money to her, but he doesn't think the money will get to her because obviously if he commits suicide, then his insurance is null and void. So he puts out a hit on himself. And he ends up going to his rivals because Ben Kingsley's nice hitman boss.
Yeah.
Friend of they're family friends.
Boss is fucking a legend in this. He's awesome.
I think he's my favorite character in the movie.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, I thought he was superb. So he basically ends up putting a hit out on himself with his rival, who absolutely despises him.
Yeah, played by Pom Clementi, who hates him because he killed her father.
Yes. I thought she was great too, actually.
Actually, the only thing I think about her character is that they didn't use her enough.
I agree. Yeah, it felt like she was going to go somewhere, and then at the end they were like, you're this is John Wick rules, and you broke the John Wick rule. But yeah, so I thoroughly enjoyed this. Actually, I wasn't sure I was going to at first. I find it interesting that Dave Bautista is such a capable actor, but he does keep finding his way back to kind of actiony silly roles. Yeah. But I thought he did good in this.
I mean, it's a stupid thing, but slightly logic brain, it kicks in every now and again, and when you see him stomping around, you do think massive tattooed guy is assassin. Who is like? How would you not notice him?
Oh, I'm surprised he got into the ballet at all.
He's not. Yeah. He is not a ninja.
No, not by any stretch is he a ninja. Yeah, but that aside, and obviously that's been the case ever since the days of Arnold. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course. That's what I said.
It's ludicrous.
It's sometimes your brain just clicks in and kicks you and says, look, and you go, no, it's not that sort of film.
Yeah, and it is a comedy. You know,
you really don't need to worry about those details because it's not that sort of film.
No, and you know it
feels a little like something along the lines of Bullet Train.
Yeah, it's no Bullet Train, but it's
nowhere near as good as Bullet Train.
It's got similar humor. It's got that similar. I kind of hate it that kind of noisy transition stuff, and they do the names of all the hitmen. This film, though, I find it quite funny. I don't know if this was intentional on the film's part, but I find it quite funny that often in this movie the introduction of the hitman is longer than it takes for Dave Bautista to murder them. Like, they do these over-the-top massive intros, and then they're dead in seconds.
Yeah, that was... at first, that was like, oh, is that going to be how it continues? And it kind of does.
Yeah, I think it was a choice. I think it was kind of an ongoing joke, and I quite liked that.
And there was, as I said to you, when the movie started, there was that tune that kicks in. It's like, oh, this is a nice tune. I like this tune. And then they started rapping over it, and it was like, oh, no. Is this going to be like a terrible rap soundtrack? And then Ben Kingsley quotes Dolly Parton, and then they play Dolly Parton, and you're like, you just won me back.
Yeah.
You just, all those points you lost from the beginning, you just gained for putting Dolly on here.
Also, I will say, something that pleased me no end was Dylan Moran turning up as a priest.
When Dylan Moran turned, I was like, what the fuck is Dylan Moran doing in this movie?
I don't know, but it was hilarious.
Yeah, and he was really good as well.
One of my favourite scenes is when he's going through his sins.
Yep.
He's like, no, you got to confess your sins if I'm going to marry you guys. And that was really funny. I actually found that really funny. So.
And I loved his response. It's like, well, you told me to confess. He's like, yes, I'm very well aware of that, and I wish I didn't now. I really enjoyed it. Alex Kingston as Ben Kingsley's wife was brilliant as this sort of slightly mouthy.
When they do the dinner scene,
Cockney almost.
The dinner scene was hilarious.
Yeah, brilliant.
Really funny.
Some really, really funny moments. There was some actually great action. One of the scenes that I didn't think was terribly good was the one with the two bikes.
Oh yeah, the two bikes were pretty ropey.
It's like, because John Wick did similar things, and the John Wick was much better done. Which, I mean,
this movie evokes John Wick a couple of times, and it is a bad comparison to try and make for sure.
I think that was one of the worst fights. But having said that, it's a very minor thing. In most of the fights, pretty good. One thing that I really hated was the fucking CG blood.
Oh god, it's so offensive.
So bad.
I get they wanted to go for like over the top gore, but the blood is so obviously fake. It's amazing in this day and age, man. Like they can do CG everything, but CG blood still looks shit. Like it still looks terrible.
What I hate the most about CG blood is you get all these like. So I think it's specifically with one of the I think it was the Spanish guy when you get his introduction and he's doing those moves with the boots.
Yeah,
he's taking people out with the spurs, and you get all these blood spurts, and then at the end of this thing he walks off, and there's not a drop of blood on him.
No.
I know you're using CG to do the blood, but surely if afterwards just chuck some red on them to make it look like,
Well, it's interesting as well because at first I thought they did it only to for the punchline because he's at the ballet and he slits that guy's throat and there's CG blood everywhere. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, don't get any blood. Oh, I forgot to say don't get any blood anywhere because that building's like hundreds of years old. And he's like, oh, well, at least the carpets are red. And I thought, okay, maybe that's the joke. But no, the CG blood is all the way through it, and it generally looks terrible.
Yeah, that just awful blood effects.
But that aside...
there was some just really... And I love the Scott Adkins and his brother doing terrible Scottish accents.
Well, Drew McIntyre is Scottish, so...
Well, okay.
He's forgiven, but yes, certainly Scott Adkins was not
over the top Scottish accent.
Yes,
then.
yeah.
And
I quite like that they subtitled it though.
Subtitles.
Yeah,
that was great. The funny thing is, there's another one of those great moments where my wife walks in. She walked in on that fight scene, and she said, why have you got subtitles on? I said, I didn't put them on.
No, the film did.
They're translating them funny, and I went, yes. I said, they are on it. They're actually doing that themselves.
Yes, it's not Monty Python, but they are. They are doing it.
Yeah, there was some really, and there was some really nice sort of moments with Batella and Batista. The bit where he sort of breaks up with her. Slight spoiler.
It was so fucking obvious she was pregnant. I don't know how Dave Bautista didn't know.
I mean, you could say, because he was too busy in his own head.
I guess. But it was like, this is so obviously going that way.
But, yeah, she's hopping at the, chomping at the bit to tell him her news, and it's obvious what she's gonna say. But it was really nicely done. I thought it's actually really sweet. And I'll tell you one of the things I did like about the direction. The transitions were fucking great.
Some of the certainly the one where he's continuing to be a hitman and they're dating.
Yeah,
those transitions were wonderful.
There was the first one that I thought was like, oh, that was really good. Was the one where he goes home and he's like turning his security off and turning it back on and unwinding sort of thing. And he sits on his sofa and puts his head back, and then it goes straight into him at the hospital with the scan thing going on. Yeah. Like, oh, that was nicely done. I like that.
There were some other really nice ones with the champagne bottle and stuff like that. Yeah, I thought those were really good.
And there was a really good one where he was aiming a sniper rifle at someone, and the moment the bullet hit the head and the head whipped back, it transitioned into her dancing and her head whipped back.
Yes.
Ooh, that was really nice. There was some really lovely direction choices in this. I thought, just slightly elevated it above your average action movie for like a Amazon Netflix type job.
Yeah.
I think the director's mostly done TV stuff before. I think if I'm, or is he? Is it actually? I'm not thinking of. No, sorry. That's another movie I was thinking of. This guy is a stuntman and martial artist. So he's worked on a lot of stuff. So you can see where the the fighting comes in, really, really well. Yeah, I would heartily recommend this. I'm not, it's far from the best action movie you're ever going to see. It's not John Wick and it's not Bullet Train, but it sits comfortably behind them. I think not too far. It was really enjoyable. I mean, like Terry Crews was for me, he's one of those hit or miss actors, but I thought he was quite good as the sort of 70s tinged vinyl enthusiast.
I liked him. Yeah, he's got a lot of charisma. Yeah, I enjoyed his character. It was quite fun. It felt a bit rushed at the end because I felt like his character was going to turn, and he kind of does, but it's very last minute, and I would have liked that to have been a bit more of a thing. Because you're kind of expecting that team up, and it doesn't really happen.
No. It was still that was.
It was like, oh, it's the end of the movie now. Bye. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I did think.
It felt like he should, like in the first John Wick, you've got the Willem Dafoe sniper, and they have interactions throughout the movie, and it kind of feels. I felt like it should have done that, where he kept trying to kill him or something, and they had a bit of a rapport or a history, and then it would kind of build to where at the end he changes his mind or he gets betrayed and they team up, and it doesn't quite happen that way.
Yeah, I think it should have been a much more impactful shootout at the end with the mercenaries.
I totally agree.
With the like you said, a good team up against them would have been really nice.
Yeah,
but to be honest, it's a minor thing, and I was satisfied with the ending. It was a nice ending.
I quite enjoyed the bit when he gets run over by the car, and he's like, "How did she steal the car?"
Yeah,
he's like, "I let her out the car." It's like, why? Why did you do that?
That was one character that I fucking hated.
So did I, but that was a funny moment.
Supposed to be his, like, who he was supposed to be taking under his wing, sort of thing.
Yeah,
he was. So there's a character there's a similar sort of character in another movie I watched, but he's 20 times worse. And when we get to that, it was like, but he was fucking awful in that character, because his humor was more like it was in another movie.
Yeah, I agree. His
character was from a different film, and that's very similar to another movie I'm going to talk about in a bit. But other than that, it was. I mean, the fact that when she nadded him, that was funny. That was
yes.
Was good. She hit him with the brand. But she's got. They both have such charm.
They really worked well together.
That they're as a, because I just thought when you first see them together, you're like, nah, that is never going to be a couple. And then honestly, their charisma just makes it that much charming. You, oh no, okay, fine. They are definitely a couple.
Yeah. I thought the same. I thought initially it was going to be like they would fall in love due to the circumstances of the thing. Like it would all go wrong, and she'd be caught up in this massive conspiracy or something, and then they'd be in danger all the time, and they'd end up falling in love due to the circumstances of the danger.
Yeah, more like a sort of the Bourne thing with
with
him and Franca Potent's character.
But
do you know what? That is sorry. That's I just triggered myself. One of my greatest fucking annoyances is how they deal with her character in the second movie. They just fucking kill her, and you're like, you cunts. I can't believe you just did that. I loved that character. She was so good in the first one, and she's a great actress. And I just thought they clearly did it to piss you off. But I'd rather they just went, oh no, she just went away.
She went back to her home planet.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was one of the times. I mean, I love it in most things, but for some reason that one really annoyed me to my core.
I mean, it did justify everything else from that point.
Yes, it did. I know. That's the problem with that. But for some reason, that one really triggered me.
No, I get it. I totally get it. Because I loved her character in Bourne Identity as well.
Yeah. That first Bourne movie is phenomenal.
Oh, it's so good. You know, I rewatched them recently, last year. And I love that first one. And the
Yeah.
second one, it goes downhill like the last one's like the third one. I say it's the last one because it's the last properly good one. That third one is pretty good. But God, when they do the spin off and then the comeback, it's like, oh no, this is just awful. Now you've lost it. You know.
The main problem with those movies is it kind of ruined other action movies.
Oh, it made everything fucking shaky
years.
cam. It was terrible.
Yeah. It's like, no, it doesn't all have to be the same. Please stop doing this.
But Killer's Game, worth a watch, good fun, far too talented actors in a silly film, but it was fun and it worked. It was okay.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it was good fun, and it didn't overstay its welcome.
No.
So what else have you watched?
So I also watched Back in Action. I've got to remember which, because I keep misnaming it. So it's Back in Action.
Directed by Seth Gordon.
Yeah. So this is Jamie Foxx and the, I think, triumphant return of Cameron Diaz.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that. I like Cameron Diaz.
Yeah. I think that it's more of a case of it's been 11 years since she did a movie.
Has it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think it was just a case of I was just happy to see her lovely smiley face. And so setup is Fox and Diaz are spies, and Emily and Matt, and they're on this mission at the beginning to steal a gubbin.
Right.
The usual. This device turns off all the lights, and you can control anything you want with it.
Oh God.
Okay, cool.
It's fucking Skyfall again.
Yeah, it's that.
I'm gonna hack the heat. I'm gonna hack a bomb in the MI6 in the headquarters, and I'm gonna hack the windows, and the windows will break because of my hacking.
With this one, I mean, not spoiling anything by telling. They turn out all the lights in London, and they open the Thames Barrier.
Okay, those things are not as ridiculous as Skyfall in places. No. Like when he diverts a fucking train, he's like, "I'm gonna put train through the wall using hacking." Oh God,
it's still, one of those things. While they are on a so I think they work for the CIA, or they're contractors to the CIA. And they're on a plane that was chartered by MI6. So you get a brief appearance at the beginning. Well, I say brief appearance. He's in the movie. Just at the start, he turns up. Andrew Scott turns up as a British agent, and he is clearly in love with Cameron Diaz's character, and he hates Jamie Foxx because they're together.
Okay.
I think they went on one date together or something. So they set up quite quickly. He hates him and loves her, sort of thing.
Sure.
While they're on this plane, she tells him, "I'm pregnant," and they're like, "Oh, maybe we should retire," blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff. And then there's something wrong with the plane. Oh, they're all bad guys. Oh, and fight kicks off. Plane goes down, and then it's 14 years later, and they've got 2 children, and they're now mum and dad, and it's the usual sort of, my kids don't understand me, and remember when our kids liked us, and all that sort of stuff. And on the daughter, who is the oldest, she lies where she's going, and she goes off to a nightclub, and they are obviously keeping tabs on them, so it's like, oh yeah, so she's hacked her sort of phone so she knows where she is. They go and pick her up, and the slime balls that are there in this club basically start a fight, to which they get their asses handed to them, and somebody sees it on film, and their old boss turns up and says, "Hey, if I can find you, the bad guys can find you." Then he gets a sniper rifle bullet to the head, and we've got to run, we've got to pick up our kids, and so from there on, it's we've got to go and get the gubbin, the MacGuffin back, and avoid the bad guys.
Sure.
There's some Russians, there's MI6 that are probably bent, and all that sort of stuff. You get an appearance by Glenn Close as her mother.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Doing English for some reason.
Oh.
Which she's done English before. It's not awful, but it's not good either.
Sure.
Her mum is like a legendary sort of MI6 agent, and they're estranged and they don't talk to each other, sort of thing. But Jamie Foxx hid the MacGuffin on her estate, so that's why they have to go back to see it. And
sure,
you get all these things. Now there's a character played by Jamie Demetriou, who is Glenn Close's much younger boyfriend, who is this sort of I'm in training to be an MI6 agent, and he's all bumbly and he's clearly an idiot, but he's well-meaning and all that. He's that character that is in a different fucking movie.
Okay.
He's from like a Mr. Bean movie.
Okay, yeah.
Now there's comedy in this movie, throughout the whole. There's lots of sort of,
or Johnny English, I guess.
Yeah, but he sort of turns up and he's like, "Oh no, please don't." He was so fucking awful. Most of the action's good. I'll say, yeah.
Okay,
it's pretty
yeah.
competent. Cameron Diaz, clearly, although they've got stunt people, you can see when it is her, and you know that she's still a very fit lady who knows how to sell a move. So that's all pretty good. Some of the CG is pretty ropey at times. That when they're like jumping off of a car onto another car, sort of thing, you're like, oh, that green screen or whatever they call it these days, it was a bit rough. But it's not. It doesn't completely take you out. It's just a bit, dodgy. They have great chemistry together, I thought. Really, they've only previously played together a couple of times in other movies, so they're obviously, they must have sort of a rapport, I think. And they're pretty believable as a couple, even though you don't really see them not being. This is going to sound weird. You don't see them being intimate, and I don't know what I mean. I don't mean like full-on sex scenes or anything like that. They don't like kiss or anything. You don't find it doesn't feel like a. Sometimes you just
okay, yeah.
It doesn't feel like they're a proper couple in that way. It feels a bit more like they're partners.
In that, well, yeah, because we were just talking about Killer's Game. They're not having full on. Well, they're not. Well, they do have sex in that movie, but it's not. Yeah. It's not like explicit or anything. No. There's a very brief scene where you can tell they had sex, right? But even take that scene out, they are clearly a couple, and very, like you said, the chemistry is totally there the whole way through that movie. You totally buy that they're at least enamored with each other.
I think of the two sort of actiony movies, this is the weaker one.
Okay.
There are certainly some nice sort of fights and some nice little some nice moments that are quite well done.
Yeah.
And as I said, because they are who they are. Jamie Foxx is pretty charismatic, and so is Cameron Diaz. So they at least hold your attention. The kids were okay. They weren't Kenny levels of awfulness. They weren't that bad. They were actually okay. So they didn't make me want to go up. Them to die horribly.
There is always a risk of that,
which you get with a lot of these sort of movies where they've got kids. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, I could recommend it as just a nice throwaway action movie.
Sure, that Netflix are doing that a lot.
Yeah, and I would definitely watch a sequel.
Oh, cool. Well, that's something.
You know, I would say that because mainly because I think the two characters were pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they had, you know, some nice use of London, which is always good. Yeah, I would recommend it as a throwaway action movie. I think I would certainly say watch Killer's Game over this.
Yeah,
I think that's a much better movie. But yeah, I think it was okay. It was just a nicely put together average movie, and I think this was the director of this was a guy who's mostly done, I think, TV stuff.
Right. Oh well, I will probably give it a go. I was planning to.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, especially I think I was just really happy to see Cameron Diaz. I think actually, you know, it's just
I had no idea she'd been gone for so long. So
yeah, I think she had like a run of really bad movies, and I think she was trying something different, and I don't think the movies themselves were very good. I don't think it was anything to do with her. I think it was just that she'd chosen some bad films.
Sure. Yeah, happens.
And you know, I think she's just one of those actresses that, you know, if she's not doing that sort of thing, she can probably do other things. You know, it's like she can keep herself busy in other places. So I think that's what she did for a bit. She sort of said she was going to retire, and she went away for a while.
And
it was
fair
nice
enough.
to go back because she's always, for me, always been an incredibly charming actress.
Yeah, I think she's great. Yeah, and to be honest, Jamie Foxx, I like in the right movie. I think he's fine. You know.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in some terrible stuff, but he's also been in some really
good stuff. Yeah.
I love his character Bats in Baby Driver.
Oh yes.
Fucking awful in that. I mean, awful as a character, not as in that.
Yeah. His performance is fantastic as an awful character. Yeah.
So yeah, I would recommend it as a sort of throwaway action movie that's a bit of fun.
Yeah.
It did make me laugh. You know, there were some actual funny bits. So yeah.
Cool. I will definitely be checking that one out. Yeah, like I'm just surprised Cameron Diaz has been gone so long. I had no idea. So, on to another movie we've both watched. You're Cordially Invited is a 2025 romantic comedy directed by Nicholas Stoller, and it stars Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon. Will Ferrell plays Jim, who is an asshole and has an asshole family who is marrying some other asshole family. And they book a wedding on this place where he got married to his wife. Meanwhile, Reese Witherspoon is an asshole, and she has an asshole family. And
should point out his wife is dead. So
his wife's dead. But yeah. Anyway, meanwhile, Reese Witherspoon plays a character who is an asshole and has an asshole family, and they also book a wedding at the same place. And so when Will Ferrell books it for his daughter, the woman takes the details, but she needs to find a pen, and then she dies. And then
so the pen she's using has got no ink, but
that's right. She does scratch it in, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So of course they all turn up a year later for the wedding, and at first they all think they're part of one big massive family, but then they quickly realize the issue. Of course, the whole wedding is in Reese Witherspoon's family's name because they've actually got the booking and it's paid for and all of that. But as you said, Jim, Will Ferrell's character, he does some detective work and sees, look, it was scrawled in there before she died, so technically whatever. And they somewhat reluctantly agree to share the space and somehow make both of their weddings work.
Yeah, it's on an island that's only got very limited spots for the wedding and what's going on. So the guy does point out he can't actually put down this many people.
Yeah,
which she completely just overrides to go, oh, we'll get some tents, and it's like, we can't put tents on the lawn. It'll be fine. We'll get some tents. It's like, okay, fine, we'll get some tents.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just thought everyone was a fucking asshole in this film, to be honest. Like, all of them. And I don't understand why anyone gets together with anyone in this film.
No.
I was really confused. There were some funny moments, but, like, I was like, you're all thoroughly unlikable.
There were definitely moments that I laughed at.
Yeah, me too.
But,
yeah.
And my biased...
I know why you watch this movie, Matt. I know.
You do know why I watch this movie. It's got Reese Witherspoon in it.
Who, by the way, is looking great.
Oh, God, she looks so wonderful, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And I did like the dynamic of, like, 5'1" Reese Witherspoon underneath 6'3" Will Ferrell.
Yeah, it was a funny look.
That was funny when they were sort of, you know, the times when they were kind of face to face having a go at each other. I thought she was marginally less annoying than he was.
She had,
only because he is just so insufferable and just so stupid.
He's very good at playing insufferable characters.
Yeah.
I think the trouble is here I'm meant to sympathize with him, and I didn't really. I mean, obviously his wife's dead. That's horrible, but that doesn't really play too much into the movie.
I know there's a weird thing that they keep pointing out with his relationship with his daughter, which is supposed to be, I think, hilarious, but it's not. It's just creepy.
Oh yeah. Well, it's even pointed out how creepy it is.
Yeah, I mean, they sing "Islands in the Stream" together, and
the thing is,
of course, it's supposed. It is kind of funny, but I think the ick factor, slightly overrules it.
I totally agree. It was weird, and there's the, I get it. It's a comedy, and it's a setup for there to be friction between two characters.
Yeah,
but almost immediately, the levels that they both take it to, and then they have these fucking scenes where they make up again, and I'm like, I after the first thing, I would have been like, fuck you forever.
Yep.
Never speak to me again.
After the first, I think the boat is.
Fuck off. Like after that, you're like no.
No. You can't walk back that.
No, there's no going back from that. You're fucking done.
I'm sorry. No amount of sympathy for your wife, dead wife.
No.
It's gonna make me go. No. You just fucking overran your wedding on purpose, and then completely fucked up the state.
Damaged property and ruined a wedding, and potentially, you could have killed someone.
Yeah,
it is like actually proven later there are like crocodiles and alligators in this fucking lake, right?
Although I did think that so Reese Witherspoon's character runs a.
Is it dead?
Yeah, the Is It Dead
show?
I thought was funny.
Yeah.
The game show Is It Dead, where they got an animal lying there, and you can. And is it a raccoon?
It's a raccoon, yeah.
There, and the contestant goes, "Oh, I'm going to go in," and she goes, "It's definitely dead." That was really funny. So she's a producer on these terrible game shows.
Yeah.
And she brings her makeup crew to do the makeup for her sister.
Yeah.
And I love the kid. The kid she says to him at one point, "Oh, she's the best makeup person in town. If you want to look like an alien or a monster, she can just do that for you." And then one of the kids comes out and he's got this like this lizard sort of alligator face.
Yeah.
And then when they go under the water, one of the women sees his head poking out and goes, "Gator!" That was genuinely funny.
That was funny.
Was actually, it's like, oh, that worked.
I'll tell you one other joke that actually made me laugh. I quite liked the TikTok joke at the end, where he was like, his daughter runs away.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, she's like, oh, where's your daughter? He's like, oh, she's run away, but they've already annulled the wedding. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
She's like, what? And he's like, it's on TikTok. And they just showed this fucking TikTok video. And I find TikTok completely insufferable. Yep. That made me laugh. That was funny.
Her bridesmaids.
Yeah.
Every scene they were in, I just wanted them to die horribly.
Yeah, the only people
awful.
The only people I kind of enjoyed, and even then they were insufferable, but I kind of enjoyed them in the role they were in, was the old ladies that were kind of doing like the Muppet Show thing of just being assholes to everyone.
Yeah.
They were kind of, but only because of that, really. The old Statler Waldorf thing, you know?
Yeah. And Reese Witherspoon's family were awful, but they were slightly more tolerable.
They were, for sure.
Farrell's family were just awful. I mean, like you said, they're all fucking awful, but it was
hard to like anyone in this film.
Yeah, and there were huge swathes of this movie where it's just not funny.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely.
They're desperately trying to sort of, you know, win you over with I don't know, the silly charm.
Yeah.
No, it's not. None of these people are charming. There was nobody really here for me to.
No, I totally agree.
And the whole. This is where the movie fails the most.
Mm.
It is not fucking remotely believable.
No, oh my god,
Margot would fall in love with Jim.
No, not especially the way that he acts and the way they've been. Like there is just no. It feels like it comes out of nowhere. There is zero chemistry. Like they both kind of. There are moments where you're like, yeah, okay, they're both sympathetic to each other's ruined weddings, right?
Yeah.
But at no point do you believe for one bloody second that they would ever get together, to where it feels really odd when they kind of force it in. It just doesn't work at all.
Yeah, when they're in the car and she's crying towards the end, and it's like, no, this is never ever gonna happen.
No.
I mean, the bit where his daughter says to her, "Oh, that's his I fancy you face," and they sort of show like a montage of him smiling at her, which incidentally you don't see in the movie. They've just done this for that specific section, and you're like, no, that's the face of a serial killer.
Yeah,
that is not the face of someone who is loving it and wants to take you home and be a nice person to you. That is a person that will put you in his basement and do terrible things to you.
Yeah, and it feels to me like it feels like a Reese Witherspoon wedding comedy.
Yeah,
with like they cast Will Ferrell, so they had to do Will Ferrell stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like it like tonally feels really weird, because it's like I feel like the comedy should have been way more kind of down to earth and believable.
Yep.
And it would have worked a lot better. But because they got Will Ferrell, they're like, okay, but now he's like decided he's gonna get an alligator to eat her, and he's put it in a room, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous.
It's
like what is this? Like if it was Step Brothers, you get it. That's the whole like vibe of the film, right? That's the comedy of Step Brothers, and I like Step Brothers for that reason. It's over the top, right? But this movie kind of tries to be both.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to be like a grounded wedding comedy, but then also doing ludicrous Will Ferrell stuff.
Yeah,
and it just the two don't work. They just don't work together. As you said, though, that's not to say that there aren't funny bits, because I did laugh a few times. It's not like
there was some actual funny moments. Sometimes I'm not sure if they were the moments that we were supposed to laugh at.
Maybe not.
But you know, I certainly can't recommend this movie.
No, I recommend you watch the Deep Space Nine episode instead. It's better.
There also appears to be some sort of English wrestlers movie that's called You're Cordially Invited.
Oh, really?
Well.
I think it's the Dax Worf marriage episode, right?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good episode.
Which is a great episode.
It is, because you got that's the one with Martok's wife in it, right?
I love her.
She's fantastic.
She's really, really mean to him, and she stood there with Cisco, and she says, She says, "I thought you'd be dead."
Yeah.
I should endeavour to do so in the future. And she says, "You're looking fat." I think she says to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yes, I know," or something. And she goes, "Where is the woman?" And he says, "Oh, she's this place, such and such." And she's like, "Would you like me to take you there?" And he's like, "No, I will find my own way." And he looks at Cisco, and Cisco looks at him, and he just goes, "Magnificent."
I think Martok became one of my favourite characters on Deep Space Nine when he turned up.
So fucking cool.
He was great.
The episode, I can't remember what it's called, but the episode where they're on the bird of prey
on the Rotaran when he's got to prove himself again. That's great.
He's making really bad decisions, and Worf has to sort of step up and.
That's when Worf becomes House of Martok at the end of that episode, right? I think that's the one where he's like, "I realised that you basically did that for me," because he thinks it's mutinous at the time, doesn't he? And then later realizes.
He says to him, "How did you know I wouldn't kill you?" And he says, "I didn't."
Yeah, that's a great episode.
Yeah, it's
good.
Awesome episode. I think DS9 has the best Klingon episodes.
Oh, it does Klingons better than even the original series movies did. Mm-hmm. You know, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
and I don't say that lightly because Undiscovered Country is wonderful, but I think DS9 did Klingons so well.
Mm-hmm. The whole, you know, the storyline with that starts with Martok being a changeling and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and Bashir as well. It's good.
So good. Yeah, the Bashir thing was really good too. Yeah, and I love the when you've got who is it? It's O'Brien, Cisco, and who was the other one? You've got I think it's three of them all dressed as Klingons at that sort of.
Oh wait, Galron's thing. Yeah, because they think Galron's the changeling, don't they?
Yeah, and they're trying to set up.
It's Odo. It's Odo.
It's Odo.
Because Odo's lost his shapeshifting abilities, so they have to actually make him wear makeup and stuff. Yeah.
That's another great episode. They're so good.
They are.
And probably my favourite episode of DS9 is oh god damn it, Blood Oath.
Oh, is that the Kalis one?
Yeah, no, it's the one with Kern.
Oh yes, yeah.
Kolath and Kor.
That's superb. Yeah.
When they turn up, it's like, oh my god, that's actually fucking.
Yeah, it's actually the original actor. Yeah, it's great.
And that's so fucking cool, and I love the dynamic between the three characters.
Yeah,
and you know, and like when he's dying, he's like, "I refuse to die before you, you thundering bulk."
But anyway,
I just love the idea that you know, Dax has got this moral quandary, which she's not at all obligated to do because of the way Trills work.
Yes,
they're not supposed to have any.
They're meant to disassociate from their previous hosts, aren't they? Yeah,
supposed to have any past life sort of thing. But she thinks she sees it as a not only a matter of honor, but like this is a blood oath.
Yeah, because I think it's quite, isn't it quite? I think they even set it up that it's quite controversial that she's even still working with Cisco, having known him previously. Yeah. It's kind of a taboo for Trills to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
which makes it even more confusing when Ezri comes back.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
that was a good tangent.
Massive tangent.
But anyway, the movie You're Cordially Invited, I didn't really recommend it. I did laugh a couple of times, but I just thought it didn't really work.
No, not even my love for Reese Witherspoon could save this movie.
No.
Just fucking awful.
I totally agree. Another movie that's totally awful was Werewolves. Not that this comes as a shock, because you can, as you said before we started the show, from the trailer you can see this film is terrible.
Yeah.
However, there is a certain kind of
bloody poster for this is really good.
I know, and the trailer has some bits in it where I'm like, okay, this is going to be bad, but it could be bad in that fun way. There's a lot of practical werewolves, and there's Frank Grillo on a truck with a minigun, and it looks like fun. But then the movie starts, and you watch the movie, and you realize that's not the movie, not really. So there was there are supermoons all the fucking time, but there was a supermoon a year ago, and it for reasons unexplained, like 1 billion people turned into werewolves.
Yeah.
And murdered loads of people. And so, as a result, they're now terrified of the next supermoon, which is coming this year. It's been a year and there's another one coming. And so they have to get ready. And the film kind of opens with Lou Diamond Phillips saying like, "Oh my god, like everyone needs to board up and stay inside." And I'm like, "Yep, that will solve this problem." But they don't. So fine. And then it cuts from that. And I thought, "Oh, this is exactly what I signed up for at this point." Because it cuts directly from him saying that to Frank Grillo's, Wesley Marshall, and everyone just getting guns and knives ready. And you're like, yeah, cool. This is the movie. This is the movie I signed up for. Like, it's a fucking... There's no plot. There's going to be a supermoon. And it's going to be Frank Grillo, who is a fantastic stunt guy. He knows his stunts in action. And he's just going to be blasting the fuck out of werewolves for, 90 minutes. That's all I fucking wanted. No, Matt. No. Because he does that, and then he leaves his brother's wife. His brother's died, I guess, in the supermoon.
Right.
I think I wasn't paying that much attention by that point of the movie. I kind of drifted off. And in fact, I watched it with Ben and Mike, and I turned to Ben and I was like, first responder. I was like, is that 9/11 or the supermoon? I'm not sure which he was the first responder in, because he was a fireman. Okay. So I was like, well, I don't know, but I wasn't paying enough attention to actually know. So either way, he's dead, and now they're whatever, they're living together or whatever. And so Frank Grillo leaves her. She's looking after her daughter in the house, and it turns out that Frank Grillo is actually one of the world's he's one of the world's top scientists, Matt. He's a super intelligent scientist man. Very believable super intelligent scientist man who he's doing experiments to cure the supermoon. And so he meets up with his scientist friends for what feels like a fucking eternity. I think it's about 20 minutes.
So he's Buckaroo Banzai?
Well, not really. That would be great. I like Buckaroo Banzai. For the record, if that says anything about my taste in films, I don't know, but I do love Buckaroo Banzai. So anyway, they're in a lab and they're trying to cure the supermoon thing, and they've got people that were werewolves and they're going to change, and they're trying this thing out on them that's going to cure them. And it's quickly established it does not cure them. It does not work. And then it gets really confused. So that they spend way too long doing that, and you're like, "What the fuck are you doing? This movie is meant to be just dumb shit. What are you trying to do here?" Way too long on that, and then they're like, "Oh god, look! You can see it," and they're looking at the blood, and they slow the spread, but it's still clearly a viral thing in the blood, and it's still spreading. And then, like, almost immediately after that, everyone's covered in fucking blood. And you're like, so you're all infected. You know you're all infected. One of the scientists literally gets torn apart. And Frank Grillo and Katrina Law is Amy Chen. They're like, oh my god, you're going to be okay. And it's like, you know they're not going to be okay. Like, in zombie movies where you're like, oh god, I guess we have to pretend like no one's ever watched a zombie movie before. It's like that, but even worse, because they're literally scientists that have been studying the supermoon that happened a year ago that turned everyone into werewolves. It's like, he's not okay. Leave him there or shoot him in the face. Like, what are you doing? But anyway, they manage to escape, and then the whole movie is this. It's basically two films. You have Frank Grillo and Katrina Law walking around surprisingly empty streets, considering there's like 1 billion werewolves. Like super low budget, mostly empty streets, couple of werewolves here and there, but for the most part, they're just walking around with bad After Effects overlays on top of them that like move with the camera, you know, like really dodgy, not even tracked in properly. Stock fire effects and things like that. And then the other half is what are those really fucking shit movies where people lock down for a day and murder's legal? The Purge. It's basically that. As Lucy Marshall is in her house with her daughter, and she's got to keep the werewolves out. And so it's The Purge meets people walking around randomly in dark streets. I said at one point the movie kind of, especially at the end, reminded me of Alien vs. Predator Requiem, where it's like super fucking dark and really badly shot, and oh my god, some of the cuts in this film.
My memory of that movie is very limited.
Well, you remember it was shit though, right?
Yes, that much.
That's probably all you need to remember.
Yeah, most of that movie is scrubbed from my memory.
Yeah, and rightly so. And so yeah, this movie is really bad. The CG is terrible, and it's kind of frustrating because they have some cool practical werewolves. They should have just doubled down on that, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see. I was looking at some of the pictures. The werewolf design is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, and there were a couple of shots at the very early on. You're like, okay, this looks kind of interesting. It's kind of cool, but no, it's just a real mess of the Purge, and then like this mass werewolf outbreak. But we don't really have the budget to do a mass werewolf outbreak, so you don't really see much of it. And they're just kind of walking around empty streets with bits of fire everywhere. And then the bits you saw in the trailer are just like the best action bits of the movie, and they don't last very long. Yeah, I really can't recommend this one. There are some baffling cuts. I wonder whether this was a movie that just suddenly lost all of its funding and they had to stitch what they had together.
Right.
Because like they clearly spent money on these practical werewolves and stuff.
Yeah.
But then it's like suddenly turns into like CGI crap, and you're like, "Oh, did you run out of money or something? Like what happened here?" And like I said, some of the cuts, it'll be like they're walking along the street, they see a werewolf, and then then it cuts and they're under the car. Like you're like, how did you do that? Like you teleported under a car. It's like what happened? Like it's like baffling cuts that have to be seen to be believed, quite honestly. But yeah, really, really bad movie. I really can't recommend it. I would have recommended this one if it was what the trailer advertised, which was just brainless violence against werewolves. That's all anyone wanted. But yeah, their attempts at...
When this came out, I heard people saying it's the best werewolf movie since Dog Soldiers.
Fuck off. It's not even fucking deserves to be in the same breath. There's no way. I mean, Dog Soldiers is like a fucking S tier werewolf movie. Mm-hmm. And there's like a fucking long line of werewolf movies I would put under Dog Soldiers before you get anywhere close to werewolves. Like American Werewolf in London, you know, Company of Wolves. Yep. There's so the fucking Howl. I'll take any of the fucking Howling sequels, and they get shit as fuck.
Even marsupials.
Yeah, fuck it. Why not?
I mean, that movie, Marsupials, my god. I mean, I remember watching that as a kid, and it's like, why has this movie got Dame Edna Everage in it? What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, you just get, sometimes those people just turn up in movies, and you're like, how did this happen? It's almost like they're surprised themselves.
Yeah. I love the Freaks, though, is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And that's got, I mean, that movie, I think, probably shouldn't have been called a Howling movie. I think it should have just stood alone as because the main werewolf in it isn't a werewolf, he's a wolf man.
Yes. And
you've got the fucking awesome, what's his name? Is it Bruce Payne?
Yeah.
I think it's Bruce Payne is this sort of Nosferatu-y like vampire guy. I'm not saying it's the greatest movie ever. All I'm saying is it's a really fun horror movies.
And that's
that
all you
like.
want sometimes. That's all I wanted from this, was just fun nonsense. And they tried to shoehorn in this plot, and it was terrible. Yeah. I cannot recommend this one. It's by far the worst film I watched this week. By far.
It was a movie I was tempted by.
Yeah, me too. I like Frank Grillo.
Yeah.
He's great. You know, he's a great
Sometimes
stunt.
I think he's a little hit and miss in the movies.
Well, he's a stunt guy. He's not really an actor. He's a stunt guy turned actor. But it does mean that he's very convincing.
That sort of time one that he was in, it was quite fun.
Oh yeah. That was okay. He's been in a bunch of stuff that I like, and I was like, yeah, fair enough, you know. But no, this is not the one, I'm afraid. Hopefully Frank will find some other movies to star in that are better, because like he's a good action guy. This just wasn't it.
If you've got, you know, Frank Grillo's character, let's not make him the professor. Let's just make him head of security.
Just make him a fucking like, because the start of this movie makes it look like it's like fucking dumbass stereotypical Texan Americans with all the guns in the world preparing for werewolves turning up, and you're like, this is great. This is what I want to see. You know, just do that. We don't need, like, I always hate it when movies feel the need to like show us the explanation of everything. You know, it's
that's most of the things like that you benefit from not knowing.
Yeah, of course. Like Cloverfield kind of worked in that way. I mean, there are bits of Cloverfield I really hate, but I like the idea of like, now it's ground level. They don't fucking find out anything. Why would they? They're, you know what I mean? Like, as a giant monster turns up, you're not going to know the whole goddamn story by the end of that thing, that incident, right? That's kind of what works about that film, I think, and that's what they should have done here. Is like, yeah, this happened a year ago. We're rednecks and we're preparing for more. We got our guns, you know. But yeah, and also the other problem is what the guy says at the start of the movie when he's like, we just need to lock everyone away. It's like that literally would solve it. It's just a night. It's one night. But never mind. Anyway, what else have you watched?
So I also watched Blink Twice.
Yes, Blink Twice. Now, this is a film I am planning on watching soon.
So this is Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut.
Yeah.
She wrote and directed it. It's got Channing Tatum as Slater. It's got Naomi Aki as Frida, Alias Swaket as Jess. You've got Christian Slater, Simon Rex, Haley Joel Osment, Adria Arjona or Adjona. It's one of those. It's a Spanish J. I'm always a bit wary of that.
Yeah.
And you've also got sort of appearances by Gina Davis and Carl McLaughlin. So basically, you're introduced to Frida, played by Naomi Aki, and her friend Jess, who are they're waiting staff at this a big event, and it's a big event for Channing Tatum Slater, who is a sort of Bill Gatesy sort of, you know, tech, Elon Musky tech guy.
Of course.
And it's this benefit that they're there for. And the two girls are obviously, you know, trying to make ends meet. They're struggling with the rent, but Frida has spent she's been saving money, putting it aside, not on rent. Rent's due, but she's bought 2 new dresses for them to, you know, pretend they're part of the thing. So they go to work, they do a bit of waiting, and then they sort of sneak out, get changed, and come back into the do pretending they're supposed to be there.
Right.
And through an accident, I mean, Frida is clearly obsessed with Slater. She obviously fancies him. You know, between waiting sort of course, is she's like staring through the window at him, and you know, she's totally enamored of him.
Yeah.
And through a stumble, and she hurts her hand, and Slater basically picks her up, and he's like, "Hey, you know, are you okay?" Blah, blah, blah. His security guard helps her, and they end up talking all night, and then he introduces her to his crew. You got Cody and Vic and just all, you know, sort of slightly smarmy people and
sure,
slight dickheads, and you know, you've got, so it's like Christian Slater, Simon Rex, and Haley Joel Osment are these people, and there's this other girl who she clearly likes him too, but obviously he's spending all of his time with Frida. And at the end, they're like, "Oh, come on, we've got to go. We're going to the island." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll go with you in a minute," sort of thing. And it's like, no. Okay, so he walks off, and then he comes back and says, "Hey, do you want to come? You know, you and your mate, you want to come with us?" So off they go to his exclusive island.
Right.
And you know where this is going.
Uh-huh.
It's a sort of Epstein Island type thing.
Sure.
You know, it's rich people doing awful things.
Uh-huh.
So, not really spoiling anything to tell you that. So, this island's got this flower that they've made into sort of like a perfume that will make you forget everything.
Right.
So, basically, every morning these women, you know, they wake up. There are signs that things have happened, like she's got dirt underneath her fingernail and doesn't remember where it came from, and they've got bruises, perhaps, that they have no idea.
Yeah.
So, but so obviously there's also on this island there are these snakes, that these clearly pythons, but they're venomous snakes, and the slight spoiler. The venom of these snakes counteracts the perfume.
Right.
So they, over the course of the thing, Frida starts, you know, first of all, her friend Jess goes missing, and no one else remembers who the hell she's talking about, other than the fact that her lighter turns up. She's got this lighter that keeps getting passed around. And slowly she starts remembering the awful things they've done to her, and you know what awful people these are, and she remembers this incident with Carl McLaughlin's character, and so on and so forth. So it's not a bad debut, actually. It's pretty well filmed. It's, for the most part, you know, well acted. Channing Tatum is suitably creepy when he needs to be. There's one particular scene where he's saying sorry, which is like, right. Ooh, it's pretty nasty and pretty good. I quite liked what I guess his acting, let's say, in that particular moment was like, oh, okay, good for you, Channing Tatum.
Yeah,
I think if Channing Tatum is one of those people that I think people just sort of see him as a sort of a bit of a meathead rubbish actor, and I don't think he is.
I think again he is one of those. I think he tends to get those roles, but I think he's pretty capable,
and he's very good in this. On the downside, the first sort of, well, it's not even half, it's over half of the movie. The build-up just takes too long. And then the subsequent fallout, how they deal with it, is over so quickly. You're like, no, this could have been. You could have done this. You could have drawn this out and made it more interesting, and it would have really benefited the film.
Yeah.
What needed to, I think, what it suffers from is that the tension's not there.
Right.
The build-up could have been done much better if she'd have started remembering things earlier.
Yeah.
And there'd have been more, you know, things that you could see is wrong, because they spend a lot of time just showing you them drinking and being awful. You know, it just
Sure.
well, just rich people stuff. You know what I mean? Like that sort of.
Yeah,
They show
yeah.
a lot of that, and you don't get enough of the sort of sinister stuff happening. I think if they would have balanced it a little better, it would have benefited quickly. And I think the worst part is, I don't really care about Frida. She's not.
Oh wow!
giving
And
me
considering what she's going through, that's
yeah. They don't give you enough of her character. She doesn't have enough of a character for me to sort of really like. I should really. I mean, of course, you know what's happened to her isn't fucking awful.
Well, of course.
But it would have been nice if she was a slightly more rounded character for me to sort
of to really invest in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Jess character was more interesting.
Right.
When you get to the end, the sort of the sort of fallout, it just felt like okay. It's trying not to spoil too much. There certain things happened to some of the characters, and I was like, I don't buy that.
Right.
I don't like one of the characters, Sarah. She's set up as she was on like this movie's equivalent of Survivor.
Okay.
So she can handle herself. She knows how to climb trees and all that sort of stuff, and she's rough and tumble. So you sort of believe that she can sort of handle herself a little. But there were four. Well, one of them happens quite quickly, and you're like, okay, that's fine. But at least two of the dudes, you're like, no, I don't buy you just crumbling like that. And
yeah.
I can recommend this movie because it's not bad. It's actually a pretty good movie. It's certainly for a directorial debut. It's a really good.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how her direction is. You know.
Yeah, it's not going to blow you away or anything, but it's competently done. There are some really nice sort of I guess reveal close-up shots are quite nicely done. And yeah, it does look it's a pretty looking movie, but maybe that's just because of where it's filmed.
Yeah.
Tatum's great. He's really believable as this tech guy who's doing these sort of things. It just slightly falls down on some of the characterization and pacing. I think it's just takes too long for you to get where you need to be.
Sure.
And then it's over, and you're like, oh, okay, fuck, right. And I didn't mind the ending. I've seen some people say they really hated the ending. I thought it was fine. You can kind of see it coming, and it sort of works. You know, it depends on how much you're willing to go with it.
Sure.
But it's a pretty good movie. It's not bad. I did enjoy it for what it is. Excuse me. But it's not wonderful. It's a competently made psychological thriller.
Sure.
Which yeah, I would recommend overall.
Yeah, I think I will watch it. Like I said, I was my interest was mostly piqued being Zoe Kravitz's first directorial debut. I was kind of curious to see what it would be like. I thought the trailer looked fine, so yeah. Yeah,
I think it's one of those movies where you just think this could have been great if they just tweaked it.
Yeah. You know? That's always way more frustrating when a film is like almost brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, well, I will have to give that a go. Is that everything? I think that's all the movies, right?
Yeah. That is it.
So Is there any news? Do you have any news?
Just a quick couple.
Mm-hmm.
Guillermo del Toro's dropped 2 pictures for his upcoming Netflix Frankenstein movie.
Yes.
One showing. Oh my word! I've forgotten his name. Just completely gone out of my head. Oh my word! Why can I not remember his name? Oscar Isaac.
I was going to say, yeah, Oscar Isaac. Yeah.
Oscar Isaac is as the Baron, and then it's got a beautiful shot of him stood in a window.
Oh, and it's like it's the kind of lab I like to see. You know?
Yeah,
I mean, it's got that modern spin where it's kind of overly ornate and all that stuff, but it has that classic look of, you know,
your massive tanks
of Frankenstein Labs past. They're clearly going very steampunky with it. But yeah, I like it. It looks cool, and it's a lovely shot. I mean, you know,
it's beautiful.
Del Toro's fantastic, visually. So
the cast so you've got Oscar Isaac, you've got
Mia Goth, Christoph Waltz,
David Bradley, Ralph Ineson, Lars Mikkelsen. It's like, wow, this is
it's a hell of a cast, yeah.
Nice bloody cast. And I'd like to think that Del Toro is not going to mess up a Frankenstein movie.
Well, I'm hoping this will be like another instance of, like, you know, Shape of Water.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh wow, you're going to do Creature from the Black Lagoon, or like your spin on that. I'm not sure that's going to work. And then it's like, oh wow, this is a really beautiful movie. Actually, this is really good. Kind of hoping we get the same with this. Obviously, this is a Frankenstein movie. It's not a similar thing. But yeah, I'm
Del Toro is said for, you know, almost his entire career that Frankenstein was the thing that
it got him into making films, right? Yeah,
into making films. His love for Frankenstein is so much, you know, and I think maybe that's always been that sort of slight thing of, do I love it too much and will I ruin it? But I think I think he's going to be a really good Frankenstein. I'm really hopeful for that one.
I would certainly hope so. I will definitely be watching it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
So in a sort of twofer, one which I'm sure you've probably heard.
Yes.
Is Robert Eggers.
Yes.
Next movie will be Werewolf.
Yeah, we might get a good one.
Which will be releasing Christmas next year.
And that seems soon, but cool.
Yeah. So that sounds good. It's going to be set in the 13th century.
Love it.
And he's writing it with his the guy who wrote Sjorn, who wrote The Northman with him. So there's that.
And
he's also signed on to do a sequel to The Labyrinth.
Now, I thought that this was a rumor that we touched on before, but I maybe just imagined that when I saw it.
I don't remember whether it was
or maybe we were talking about the fact that they were on about making a Labyrinth.
Yeah, I don't think it was. I don't think it was Eggers that was attached it the last time we reported this one. I think it was because there have been shitloads of people attached to him.
Yeah.
Of this. Fede Alvarez, I think, was the last one who was mentioned, I think. Yeah, and Scott Derrickson. They were both
right.
At some point
so we have talked about it before, just not with Eggers attached. Yeah.
So now it looks like it's been, for the moment, let's say, sealed with Eggers. Now, you're always going to be on a loser with this fucking anyway.
Yeah, I also much prefer it when Eggers just does his own thing. The more time goes on, you know, I loved Nosferatu. I thought it was a great movie, but I do think his strongest movies are just when he is doing his own weird shit.
Yeah,
like I'm really excited for Werewolf.
Yes,
because I'm like, cool, that's just Eggers doing his own. He's not adapting anything. He's just doing his own thing. You know, The Witch, The Lighthouse. Those are like the top tier movies for me of his. I mean, I did love Nosferatu. It's film of the year material so far, but But still, I do think he's best when he's just left to his own devices and adapting the Labyrinth. I'm like, I don't know that I see it. I trust him implicitly as a director.
I mean,
so I'll definitely watch it, but
I like that it's definitely confirmed as a sequel and not a remake.
Yes, that's great.
As I said, you're onto a loser mainly because, Bowie's not around, so you're not going to get Jareth. I don't know whether they'll recast him or just have a new bad guy. I hope they just have a new bad guy.
I would hope so too.
There's no real sort of telling what's going on yet, so I don't think we even know if Sarah's coming back. It's a hard one because I love Labyrinth so much, and it's at least they've got a fucking great director attached to it.
Yeah,
that much you can say. How well it turns out, I mean, it's a mixed thing for me. Werewolf, I'm totally on board with.
Yeah, I think we're very similar feeling on this.
Yeah,
because
I think it's one of those sort of things that he's got to the point now where he's got 4 movies under his belt, and they're all fucking good.
They're all bangers, yeah.
And it for me, it's that point where it's like Ben Wheatley is one of my favorite directors, and I think he's great when he's doing his own thing, and he's done a couple of movies now where he's adapted other works, because he did a version of Rebecca, wasn't it? And he did High Rise, which was fine. I liked High Rise a lot. But I think, like you said, with Eggers, doing his own thing he should be just do that and maybe not adapt.
Yeah, it feels very unfair for such an accomplished director, and a director who's like, even my least favorite of his films I love and I think is far and above most people's other films, right? Yeah. He's so talented, and it's so unfair of me to say it, but I feel like Labyrinth might be the first misstep if there's gonna be one. Yes. But I'm totally willing to see what he comes up with. Of the two projects,
having said that, I personally haven't seen Nosferatu yet. So
I loved Nosferatu. I did. It's not. I still. In terms of remakes, I do prefer the Herzog version. That's just my jam. But I loved Nosferatu. I thought Eggers did a fantastic job. I'm very curious to see what you think of it. I think you'll love it too.
Yeah, as soon as it's on
streaming,
I will.
Yeah,
I will stream it. But
I'll certainly give it a go.
There's at least a glimmer for Labyrinth.
100%.
But they should have done a fucking sequel to it years ago. And
yes,
when Bowie was still alive.
Totally agree.
But yeah, I mean, I know there's sequel comics, and I know there's books and stuff, and I know there's a really weird prequel comic I think that I've never read, but it is from what I've seen, it looks really interesting actually. Really weird stuff. So there is already stuff out there.
Yeah.
But we'll see. It's not a complete write off. So it's a stay tuned job, let's say.
Yeah. And I guess we'll see. Is there anything else? There isn't a lot going on. I mean, I saw Jason Statham's done another movie. He seems to be making his way through various trades now.
Yeah.
Like he was a beekeeper and now he's the working man, or he's like a gardener or some shit. I don't fucking know what's going on. Like they've done Bricklayer, that wasn't him, but it seems like there's all these action movies where it's someone who has a manual labor job and they're also ex-CIA or some shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be fun, I'm sure,
I'm trying to find. Hang on, let me.
But yeah, I don't know.
That one specifically, though, there was 2 things that were.
Well, it's a Stallone movie, right? It's Stallone written.
It is Stallone one, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it. So it's written by Chuck Dixon and Sylvester Stallone. It's like, wow, okay.
I mean, you'd hope, Stallone. Right?
Yeah.
You would hope.
Cool, and I've seen the trailer. It looks all right.
yeah. I mean, it looks fine.
And it's got a pretty good cast. You've got Michael Pena, David Harbour, and Jason Fleming in it.
Yeah.
So I'm on board.
There's definitely some potential there for sure.
That funnily enough, that Dave Bautista movie was originally going to have Statham in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the weird.
I can kind of see that actually.
The script for that has been going around since the 90s.
Oh wow!
It's based on a book.
Oh.
And I think that's another one that's been had loads of people attached to it and fell along the wayside and until we got what we did. But yeah, that's been circling Hollywood for a while. The script for that movie.
Oh wow. Well, there was the Megan sequel trailer teaser.
Yeah, it was a nice little teaser.
A nothing teaser, but good.
Yeah.
Good that there's another one on the way. So
I adored that first one. It's just ridiculous fun.
Yeah, which is all you want.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, is there anything else on your end? I don't think there's anything else.
No, all quiet on the Western Front so far.
Mercifully, no deaths that we're aware of. Which makes a bloody change, so, Yeah. Matt, what are we going to do next time?
I thought we could do The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes.
That's a great idea. That is a great idea. What was I going to suggest? I can't remember what I was going to suggest, but I guess we can suggest it another. It could be the one after or something. I can't remember what it was now. What was I? Because I was really sure the other day. I was like, oh, we'll have to do that, and I just cannot remember.
We discussed a Sherlock movie or a Hammer movie was our
That's what I was going to suggest.
Our suggestions.
I was going to suggest Captain Kronos.
Oh, okay.
I was going to suggest Captain Kronos.
I mean, we'll do them both at some point.
Only because that's why, and unfortunately, it's reminded me there was a death. Horst Janssen, who of course was in that movie, died.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, died this week. So or last week.
That might change our.
No. I'm totally up for. I'm totally up for Sherlock. We can come back to this. It's fine. There's all the time in the world for Hammer movies.
We can do Kronos the next.
Yeah, we'll do it at some point, but
not like they're similar movies.
No, they're very, very fucking different. So yeah, it's not a problem. I like Kronos is just fun.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's always been one of my little things that Kronos really should have had some sequels.
For sure, it should have had some sequels.
Would have been bigger.
Yep.
And taken off as a with sequels. And I know that's another movie that I think they've tried to get rebooted at some point. And it's one of those few times where I think, you know what, maybe a reboot of Kronos could be good.
I'm kind of feeling that too, actually. I'd be willing to give that a go.
Maybe not in the last 10 years gone by. No. Or, but might be a time to do it now.
Yeah, that could work. But, well, in any case, we will be back next week. And, until then, stay safe, take care, and we'll catch you next time.